Every bag of coffee you've ever bought came from one of two plants, Arabica or Robusta, and chances are someone along the way told you that Arabica means good coffee and Robusta means cheap. That's an oversimplification, and it's costing you good coffee. What separates these two species starts at the genetic level, runs through their chemistry, and shapes everything from farming costs to how you should brew them. Start with the genetics, and the rest makes sense. Arabica has 44 chromosomes, whereas Robusta has 22. The chromosomes carry instructions for producing enzymes, and enzymes drive the chemical reactions that create flavour compounds when cherries ripen and beans roast. Double the chromosomes gives Arabica more genetic redundancy, more variation in enzyme expression, and under the right growing conditions, a wider range of flavours. Robusta's 22 chromosomes mean a narrower toolkit, though how much that limits the cup depends on how the coffee is grown and processed. Arabica makes up around 65% of global production. Robusta covers most of the remaining 35%. The split between them has less to do with quality and more to do with where each species can survive and what it takes to grow there. Arabica grows at 1,200 to 2,200 meters above sea level. Robusta grows from sea level to about 800 meters. That altitude gap affects the coffee from the inside out. The temperature drops roughly 6.5 degrees Celsius for every 1,000 meters. At 1,800 meters, daytime temperatures sit at around 15 to 20 degrees. Down at 400 meters, it's about 25 to 30 degrees. Cooler air means slower cherry development. Arabica cherries take an extra 1 to 3 months to mature compared to Robusta, though exact timing varies with climate, cultivar, and farm management. More time on the branch means more photosynthesis, converting sunlight into sugars. More sugars mean more sweetness in the cup and more fuel for Maillard reactions during roasting. Arabica beans generally carry higher sugar levels than Robusta, though there's overlap depending on cultivar, ripeness, and processing. Altitude also makes Arabica expensive. Steep slopes, no machines, everything hand-picked by workers climbing mountain terrain. Labour costs per kilo are substantially higher than flatland mechanical harvesting, and altitude is just the start of why Arabica costs more. Robusta contains 2.2 to 2.7% caffeine by weight. Arabica sits at 1.2 to 1.5%, nearly double. Caffeine is a natural pesticide. It paralyzes and kills insects that feed on coffee plants. Robusta grows at lower altitudes where warmer temperatures support larger insect populations. More bugs equals stronger defenses. Arabica grows in cooler and higher areas with less pest pressure, so it never needed as much. The upside for Robusta farmers is lower pesticide bills and fewer crop losses. The downside is in the cup. Caffeine stimulates bitter taste receptors. Robusta also carries higher levels of chlorogenic acids, which add their own bitterness and harshness. Together, these compounds mask whatever subtler flavors might be hiding underneath. Specialty coffee gravitated toward Arabica partly because of this. Lower caffeine and lower chlorogenic acids let the delicate stuff come through, fruity, floral, and sweet. Those flavors exist in Robusta too, but they're harder to taste through the bitterness, and those chlorogenic acids deserve their own explanation because they affect more than just flavor. Robusta contains 7 to 10% chlorogenic acids, whereas Arabica contains 5.5 to 8%. These compounds partially survive roasting, and during brewing they extract quickly. They're what give coffee body strength and thick mouthfeel. They're also part of why Robusta produces more persistent crema in espresso. Crema forms when carbon dioxide trapped during roasting gets released under pressure, and lipids and proteins stabilize the microbubbles. Robusta blends hold that foam longer, but chlorogenic acids also bring a stringency, that dry, puckering sensation. Too much and the coffee turns unpleasant. Chlorogenic acids and caffeine are among the most water-soluble compounds in coffee. They dissolve first and fastest. Robusta has significantly more of both, so under identical conditions the water pulls more total material out of the bean, past the sweet spot and into harsher, stringent territory. A coarser grind gives the water less surface area to work with, and shorter brew times cut contact before it goes too far. Either one pulls total extraction back to where Robusta actually tastes good. So Robusta's chemistry gives you creamer and body, but demands different handling. Most of the bad Robusta you've tasted was brewed like Arabica. The same parameters, but the wrong species. That's a technical issue, and not a problem with Robusta itself. Arabica has double the chromosomes, but that hasn't protected it. If anything, it created a specific vulnerability. Arabica isn't the original coffee plant. It's a hybrid, a cross between the Robusta ancestor, Canephora, and a smaller, sweeter species called Eugenioides. That happened once, somewhere in the Ethiopian highlands, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Every Arabica plant on Earth traces back to that single cross. Hundreds of varieties exist today, but they all share the same narrow genetic base. Coffee leaf rust, caused by the fungus Himalaya vastatrix, exploits exactly this. It attacks leaves, shuts down photosynthesis, and can wipe out entire plantations. Once it cracks one Arabica variety, it often cracks others because the vulnerabilities are shared. Robusta took a different evolutionary path. Broader genetic diversity across its natural range, despite fewer chromosomes. Different populations developed distinct resistance mechanisms under harsher conditions where disease pressure was constant. What devastates one group often fails against another. For farmers, the difference is money. Arabica needs disease monitoring and careful cultivation. Robusta largely looks after itself. Arabica needs temperatures between 15 and 24 degrees Celsius. Above 24, the plant stresses, photosynthesis slows, cherry development suffers, and bean quality drops. Robusta handles up to 30 degrees and copes better with fluctuations, though optimal growth still sits around 20 to 25 degrees and yields decline above that. As growing regions warm, some traditional Arabica areas are becoming marginal. The altitude zones are shifting. Robusta can grow where Arabica can't. Vietnam proved this at industrial scale. In 3 decades, they converted land that was never suitable for Arabica and built roughly 40% of the world's Robusta supply. They didn't compete with Arabica. They went where Arabica couldn't follow. So we have 2 species. One with more genetic complexity, that's grown at altitude, but still expensive and vulnerable. The other is tougher, cheaper, and chemically different. And for decades, the specialty coffee world turned that into a false binary. Arabica means quality, Robusta means commodity. That story doesn't survive contact with actual coffee. Commodity Arabica, strip-picked and carelessly processed, tastes flat and boring. Quality Robusta from selective hand-picking and careful processing delivers chocolate and nutty notes with clean bitterness. Indian Robusta estates in Mysore produce beans that cup at 82 to 84 points on Specialty Coffee Association standards. Brazilian Conilon Robusta, processed as naturals, develops genuine sweetness and body. A well-grown Robusta and a poorly grown Arabica are further apart in quality than most people's idea of Arabica versus Robusta. The species matters less than what happens to it, but the market doesn't reward quality Robusta. Premiums are too low, so farmers don't invest. Buyers sample commodity grade and write off the whole species. Prices stay low. Nobody breaks the cycle. It's starting to shift. Specialty espresso blends using quality Robusta are becoming more common, but slowly. Dark roasting affects each bean type differently. Arabica loses origin character fast as roast flavors dominate. A dark roasted Ethiopian and a dark roasted Colombian start tasting the same. Robusta changes less because its baseline flavor profile was never as varied. Commodity coffee gets roasted dark because it creates consistency. Whatever the origin gave you gets replaced by roast character. For commodity beans, that makes sense. But quality Robusta benefits from lighter roasting, where you can actually taste what careful processing achieved. As of January 2026, commodity Arabica trades at $3.50 to $3.80 per pound on the New York C market. Commodity Robusta sits around $2 to $2.50 on the London market. That gap reflects everything covered so far: altitude, labor, disease, and yield. At retail, the numbers get dramatic. Specialty Arabica sells for $22 to $43 per pound, depending on quality scores and origin. Quality Robusta tops out at $3 to $4 at best. The price ceiling holds because most people associate Robusta with instant coffee. Changing that takes consistent supply of quality beans, which takes higher prices to justify the effort. The market stays stuck. For espresso, Robusta earns its place. Higher lipid and protein content helps creamer. Caffeine provides intensity, and milk drinks benefit from a stronger base cutting through. Traditional Italian espresso uses 10 to 40% Robusta in blends for exactly these reasons. For filter, Arabica's complexity gets the room it needs. A longer extraction, no milk, and nothing masking the subtleties. Light to medium roasts showcase what the species does best. For instant coffee, Robusta dominates because it handles aggressive processing better and costs less. Some instant coffees use freeze-dried Arabica to preserve aromatics, though at significantly higher cost. But the species is only one variable. A well-grown, carefully processed Robusta beats a carelessly handled Arabica every time. The difference between a good cup and a bad one has less to do with the plant's name than with what happened to it after picking. The coffee industry runs on these two species, each adapted to different conditions, each suited to different purposes, each capable of producing something worth drinking when someone bothers to do it properly.